Welcome to the Wealth Horizon podcast, where we explore the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping the financial industry today. In each episode, we bring you insightful conversations with industry leaders, sharing practical, actionable strategies to help advisors deepen relationships and meet growth goals. I hope you enjoy. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Wealth Horizon podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Naz Hassanein, the founder of Worthy Circles, a Boston-based networking and consulting group consisting of all the movers and shakers in the financial world, at least close to Boston, which she founded in 2015. Before founding Worthy Circles, Naz managed the COI marketing at Ballantine Partners. And before that, she spent 8 years at Family Office Exchange, overseeing the single-family office, multifamily office, and advisor relationships. Worthy Circles, it says on LinkedIn, started as a family office club for advisors in the Boston area. But I think it's grown very much beyond that in size and scope. I've known Naz for probably almost 20 years from back in my days at GenSpring when Naz, you were still at Fox. You were and always have been the world's best connector of people. And I'm so happy to have you.
Well, that's very kind, and I am delighted to be here.
So Naz, we've been planning this for a long time. I'm so glad that you've agreed to come on the show. I think let's start off with a little bit of your background. Can you tell us a little bit of the history of Worthy Circles and why you wanted to start Worthy Circles and kind of what led you to do that?
Sure. So I have been in the family office space for the last 25 plus years. As you mentioned, I was a managing director at Family Office Exchange, which is a membership-based organization for single family offices, multifamily offices, and advisors. And it provides a lot of thought leadership around different issues that are facing these different constituencies and helps them connect with each other and grow their business as well. And I did that for many years. And then I had my second child and didn't want to be moving back and forth from Boston to Chicago. So I went to work for Ballantine Partners, which was a wonderful opportunity. Ballantine, for those of you who don't know, is a multifamily office and it has a national footprint. And while I was there, I did a lot of work around how to engage the COIs that they had. And so while I was doing that, I started thinking, this is a great opportunity. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, but there seems to be a much larger opportunity in the Boston market of doing this across all of the different firms. Instead of having one firm pay my salary, what if I created a membership structure, which I was so used to from Family Office Exchange? What if I created a structure that would allow all of the advisors in the family office space to come together and network, but also network to grow their business, but also to share their thought leadership and really be able to tell the story of what they're doing for their clients. So with that, close to 10 years ago now, I started Worthy Circles. And the whole idea behind it is that the family office space is very kind of hush-hush, as we all know.
Right.
So it's very hard to find family offices, obviously, because of the secrecy that surrounds that amount of wealth. So the way you really grow your business if you're an advisor working with a family office is if a client refers you to a similar size client, so a family office refers you to a family office, or if an advisor in a complementary space refers you in. So, for example, if a trust and estate attorney is working with a family and that family says that they need a new accountant, so they refer in a new accountant. So that's how you grow your business. And so through COIs, basically. So I really started thinking about that. And I was like, well, what if I created a business-to-business membership model where people are meeting and learning more about each other and their businesses and referring business to each other.
I think it's a really interesting approach, right? Because I've worked with a lot of firms also over the years, and the COI marketing strategy is very mysterious to a lot of people, right? It either works or it doesn't. I've known only a couple firms that have really successfully harnessed COI relationships to grow. So I think that that's really interesting. I think it's interesting that that was the focus of your role at Ballantine, and then also that was sort of the inspiration for you to start Worthy Circles. So I think that's really cool. And I think that, when you think about why will a COI refer you to a client, it's also about showing the COIs like how you're going to strengthen their practice, right? And like how you're going to help them grow their practice. And if you can, right. So I think that building those relationships is sort of overlooked with a lot of firms. I think that a lot of advisory firms sort of decide to dip their toe in the water with the COIs, and maybe they don't see something come of it. And so they're just like, oh, well, it's not going to work. But don't you think it's like a very long game?
It is. It's a very long game. And I think the reason that probably out of all markets that you see people doing this the most in maybe the family office market is because there's really only these two ways to grow. You can't really market to the family offices because it's such a bespoke market and bespoke marketing. So they really have limited choices. The reason I think that the COI marketing works, and I think that there's a lot of, mystery around it because it's there, and there shouldn't be really, because it's just elbow grease. It's not a silver bullet. It's not, like you can make this happen in 6 months by staying on top of this COI and meeting with them every 3 months, etc. It's really, you try a number of different formats. You don't always know, most of the time, in fact, you don't know what outreach caused the that COI to become really hooked to you. And you have to just, like I said, it's elbow grease. You have to keep at it. So when I was at Ballantine or at other places, when you think about the COI market, you might have like a group of COIs that each person's responsible for, and you go to lunch with them maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. If you're very good, you might try to go to lunch with them once a quarter. But what typically happens is, it's been 3 months, you've met this person, you really like them, and you think you should be working together and that your companies have a similar model, and that person's personality lends itself to the type of people you work with. So then 3 months down the road, you go to schedule another lunch. It sometimes feels forced because you're like, well, I just talked to him. What are we going to talk about now? Or I've already had like 3 meetings with him. What are we going to talk about? But the whole idea is that you need to stay in front of that person so that when the opportunity comes, they do give you the referral. And sometimes it's 3 months, but it really becomes 5 months before you meet that person because of calendars and rescheduling lunches, etc. So, it's not continuous. The nice thing about Worthy Circles is that it happens, there's meetings that happen every month. So you go to the meeting and you see all of these different people who could be referral sources for you. And this is the whole idea behind how I came up with Worthy Circles, because I found that frustrating too. And then you don't even have to sell yourself. In fact, I encourage people, it's not a hard sell at all. You don't have to remind them what you do. You really just go, and people remember who you are when they come to the meeting, or if they don't know you, they meet you. And you're just there to listen to the presentation, to participate in the conversation, to have a cup of coffee with everyone beforehand. And naturally, people get to know each other. And then because it's continuous, it's, you see each other once a month, you might see each other once every 2 months. You don't have to structure it, but you stay on people's radar. Mm-hmm. Now, if you weren't part of a group like a Worthy Circles, the other ways that you can do it is through different things. Like you might have a newsletter that goes out. I get a lot of newsletters from a lot of different companies. I don't necessarily even open the newsletters, but when I see their name, it reminds me of them. And I think that practice is great too. So like I was saying, it doesn't have to be one specific thing. It can be many different things. And in fact, I encourage you to try different mediums to stay in front of people. So it might be that you're a regular speaker like you, Rosemary, at the Ultra High Net Worth Institute, or at Family Wealth Alliance, or Family Office Exchange, or different places, or on different people's podcasts. But all of these different opportunities are ways to be in front of your COIs and remind them that you're there, which is the key.
Right.
And then when you have the opportunity to do a little bit more, like the thought leadership, whether it's through the newsletter or through a speaking opportunity, that's always important too.
And I want to probably stay there for a second. We talk to a lot about our clients when we talk to them about content development, right? So content development is nothing new. It's definitely the best way to market to your target audience. Thinking about how to incorporate specific key COIs into your content strategy can be a really effective relationship builder with those COIs in and of itself, because if they're doing a podcast with you, or if they're, co-writing a commentary with you, or like maybe doing a webinar, they're going to be more likely to think of you when they're referring business for their clients. And I think that's a really important strategy. Also, then there's like the co-networking. So you get to tap the COI's network and they tap your network, and everybody's happy, right?
Right, like doing a lunch and learn at their office, and then they do a lunch and learn at your office and educate more people in your firm. I think the tricky part really becomes on how you communicate that out across a firm, and different industries are different too. So, for example, at law firms, a lot of times it comes back to one person being the holder of the keys. Like they are the people who get the credit for all the relationships that come from that firm. So that's a different model. You might have another place where each person refers different people. So you also kind of want to find out, how do they handle referrals? And all of these questions are totally okay to ask. And I feel like that's one of the other important things that people need to remember. It's like, you're all in this for the same reason. So it's fine to ask them, like, how does your business handle, how does your company handle referrals? How is the best way for us to stay in touch?
Yeah.
How can we make this relationship work? I mean, those are all fine things to say. And I think it's also really important to track referrals. So you know who you've given referrals to. So if as a firm, you're kind of the conduit when people come to you when they want to give a referral, if it's centralized, you can then make sure you know how many times you've referred this specific accounting firm or this specific trust and estate attorney. And then when time comes at the end of the year, you can look to see who has referred back to you, so that you can have an honest conversation down the road and say, okay, we really are looking to grow our business. How can we work more closely with you? We were delighted to give you this many referrals. Now, having said that, and I'm probably jumping into another question that you might have, I also just want to warn you that you also don't want to have referrals for the sake of referrals. So that's something to be careful of, because if that other party is just giving you a referral and that family is not really interested in moving, that's just a waste of your time too. So it's, it's like I said, that's why it's work. It's hard because you do waste a lot of time. But you need to try all these different venues and ways until you find what works. And it's different for each client that comes on board.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. So I have had clients before where they have a specific COI that they are, whether it's an attorney or an accountant, they're a wealth advisor, and they're lunching and dining and putting all of this time and all of this energy and elbow grease, as you say, into the relationship, and nothing has come of it. At what point do you feel that it's appropriate to ask the question, like, do you have someone that you're referring your clients to? We're trying to grow our business and we'd love to be that resource for you. At what point do you kind of open up the kimono, so to speak, and ask that question?
That's a great question. I think it's obviously you have to be, aware of the relationship and how it's moving. You definitely don't want to do it the first 2 or 3 times you meet that person. You want to build that relationship, let them know. But if you've spent a good year and you've had 4 to 5 really great contacts with this person, whether you've gone to a game or you've gone to dinner or you've done other things, and at this point you feel comfortable with that person, I think it's totally fine to ask. I'm a big believer, and I tell my kids this all the time, like, you can ask anything. It just depends on how you ask it. So, it really depends on how you you ask your questions. So I think once you've been working together and you're just kind of saying, we really are looking to grow our business. We only need maybe 3 or 4 big families, the size that we already work with. And I think our approaches are very similar. Um, how could we possibly be working more closely? We've done all of these things thus far. The other key is, have you referred the business to them?
Sure.
Especially if you haven't done your piece too. I mean, you need to be thinking about that as well, because while they might like going to, a Celtics game or going out to dinner with you at a nice place, etc., they're also in it for the same reason. And then the last thing I will mention too is that I think the other key is that in the same way that people are nervous about when to ask, the other question is also asking them, it's not just, I mean, of course, the ideal is to get a referral for your business, but a referral to another COI or a referral to, like helping them grow their network also counts as something. So just ask them, like, how else can I help you? Like, is there an organization they want to join? Is there something that you're doing for your group of members that are working really well, or your clients, and it's helping you grow your business? Maybe they need to be part of that. Just kind of like sharing different things also helps and counts, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to hear if you have some advice of like, how do you sell yourself to a center of influence without being a salesperson, right? So what are some of the tactics you've seen that work, like speaking very tactically?
I think the key is really to let people see who you are, right? Like what differentiates each firm. And I've been to so many different presentations on this, from my days at the corporate executive board to family office exchange to other places, right? This is the thing that we spend the most time on. What differentiates a firm?
Mm.
And what differentiates a firm is the people who work there. So you want to show who the people are that are working there. You want people to connect with you because you're who's differentiating that firm. So I had a great person when I first started in sales at the corporate executive board in my 20s, and she said, when I go to a meeting, I don't like a company meeting or something with different clients. I don't even talk to them about the renewal or the membership or whatever I'm trying to sell. I'm just there to have a good time with them and let them enjoy themselves and to get to know me and I get to know them. And so just by engaging that person and truly being interested in who they are and letting your own personality come out, I think that's how you develop a relationship. So I think it's kind of like an innate, you just don't be afraid. Have fun, show them who you are, get to know them, get to know their children, or try to remember things that they tell you. Be truly engaged, be truly interested, and listen to what they're saying, because inevitably they're going to tell you something that maybe down the road you can act upon. Like maybe they're interested in cocktails. You can send them a group of, like just whatever you send them, make sure it's specific to them. Because I think that's how you market. The second piece I'd say about doing a great job is also, I call it good referral hygiene, or good, just like follow-up hygiene. So when you go to a meeting, make sure the next day you've set aside a half an hour to send thank you notes to the people that you met, that you're putting those people into your CRM system, that you're writing down in the CRM system something that they might have told you about their family, etc. So it feels unnatural. It feels like a pain. It's like, like stretching after you've gone for a run. But you'll feel better if you do the stretch, especially as you get older. So, make that time. And after a while, it becomes habit. So you do the quick follow-up because they'll remember you the next day. They won't remember you maybe 3 weeks from then.
I
So,
totally agree.
just make that time.
I
Yeah.
love calling it hygiene. I think that's great. One quick thing, as a side note, I am curious. So you mentioned a CRM system. We have people all the time asking what is our preference on CRM systems, and we have a few that we've worked with. I'm curious to know what CRM system you use for stuff like this.
You're going to laugh. I don't have a CRM system. I'm
Ah!
old school. I have an Excel spreadsheet. I'm like a one person firm, so I don't really need it. And this is my forte. Like I just remember things about people. I write them down, or I just, try to incorporate them into my conversation with that person so it sticks in my mind. Um, but as my husband says, like he really can't believe what my business is, and he's always joking. He's like, basically, she's good at a cocktail party. So I'm lucky in that sense. But like some people who are, have a photogenic memory or something like that. Sorry to
Okay.
disappoint. I
Good
don't
to know.
have a.
Good to know, Naz. So I
I
want
don't
to
have.
talk a little bit about one other benefit of organizations such as Worthy Circles that maybe people don't think about, but I know that it's becoming really hard to find talent for advisors. Like advisory firms are struggling to make good hires. I'm curious to know, have you seen what have you seen in terms of talent acquisitions and how organizations like Worthy Circles and other peer-to-peer networking groups can help with this challenge?
Well, I think first of all, the multifamily office world and the family office world is sort of like the wild west of finance in some ways, right? It is. It's like the place that no one is really trained for until you're in it. And I think that things like Worthy Circles or Family Office Exchange or Family Wealth Alliance, by going and listening to all these different presentations, you get a better sense as to what a family office needs and wants. Otherwise, the person who's serving these families are really like, there's always a joke that they're a Renaissance man or woman, because you need to know a little bit about so many things because you want to provide a holistic picture to that family. So finding those people is very hard. Um, I think that, again, the key to all of this is being involved, showing up, right? I've had a lot of people at Worthy Circles who found new jobs or new opportunities or moved because they've been in the circle. They've seen each other, they meet each other, another opportunity comes up, people post a job posting, ask for some help, etc. Um, so it's like anything. Like when you're in that space and you're present and people know who you are, it has an impact.
Opportunities come from that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious to know, like, just to kind of wrap up, I would love to know any lessons learned that have sort of given you a light bulb moment since you founded Worthy Circles.
Well, I think that the questions and the topics that I've seen in the last 25 years, from when I was at Family Office Exchange to Ballantine to now, the topics are really the same. It's about how do you take care of elder clients or elder family members? How do you engage the next generation? How do you do philanthropy? How do you incorporate philanthropy into engagement of the next generation? It might be different topics like that. So the topics that we present on, I feel like for the most part, they've been very similar across the years. I think one thing that's really changed in the family office market in the last few years is this crop of new advisors that are coming in and serving the family offices. I would say that there's a lot more cottage industries that are serving the family offices because of the needs that they have. So, for example, at Worthy Circles, we see a lot of people who've joined and their specialty is like very niche. And at first, when I meet them, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Can you really support your whole business doing this job? Like, they're like, I do bookkeeping for elders. I'm like, wow, that's very specific. Not bookkeeping for everyone, just bookkeeping for elders. But then I leave the meeting and I'm like, actually, I know like 6 people to introduce you to. And that community has different needs. So understanding how to work with them and hiring the right people who are going to be able to communicate with an older population and are forgiving or understanding of the different things that are happening, and maybe the forgetfulness or the tire, whatever it might be. Like, there's a reason there's that business. Or maybe somebody's a fixer, and at first you kind of meet them and you're like, you do what? Like, sounds like my worst nightmare. Like, everything that you just explained sounds horrible. But then you realize, like, no, people need to have somebody who can handle this situation and can look at it and come in and be like, okay, we're going to solve this, and this is how we're going to do it, or we're going to mitigate this. Maybe we can't solve it, and here are your different options. Or maybe behavioral health issues, next gen, like launching kids out after college to get their first job, and helping these kids like figure out how to mind their parents' contacts, and figure out how they're going to get the job that they want. So there's a lot of interesting opportunities out there, a lot of interesting new types of advisors that I've met. And again, each time I meet them and I'm like, wow, it's like being a very specific ENT doctor that only focuses on the right ear. I'm like, seriously? But there's a need.
There is a
And
And I think that like the advisors who are able to be very focused in their target, and the advisors who are able to really define very specifically who they work with, are the ones who are the most successful. I've seen a lot of times advisors are very hesitant to sort of define who they work with. They want to work with everybody. They don't want to alienate anybody. So they're very afraid to put a stake in the ground and say, we work with whoever it is, right? So whether it's we only work with the ultra high net worth, or we only work with the mass affluent, or we only work with entrepreneurs, I think there's a hesitancy to do that. But I think the advisors who are able to do that are able to really crystallize their value proposition to both COIs and clients who work with them. And then people are more likely to send people their way if they specifically know somebody who that'd be perfect for.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's fantastic. And that actually really plays into who your COIs should be, right? So it has to, like anything that we've talked about today, it has to be authentic. Like, you can't say that you work with divorced women because every other advisor is going after divorcees, right? You have to really, like, it's best if you can prove how you're working with these families and why you've chosen them, why you work with first generation entrepreneurs versus third generation inheritors. And whatever you decide your niche is, then you can build your COI community around that. So, for example, if you work with a lot of women who are women of means, who might have gotten it through divorce, you have all sorts of different networks that you want to be tapping into. So, and speaking at different types of presentations. So it might be like in the Boston area, there's a great organization called Jane Does Well, and it helps women who are going through divorce, helps them identify the attorney they want to work with, helps them think through different issues around their wealth management, and educates them. So that's like an organization that you would want to be part of, and present at. And then you'd want to be part of all the other advisors who are part of that. If you work with a lot of real estate families, you might want to be part of New England Women in Real Estate. So you really want to know this because it helps you not only identify the advisors you want to work with, but also the organizations and maybe the places that you're writing the newsletter, etc. So just by doing it across the board, you don't have enough time in the day. So it's really important to pick what you're doing. And the advisors or the clients that you attract will be different. So working with a third generation inheritor is very different than working with a first generation entrepreneur, who might not have children yet. And really is like, they just have different focuses. So that helps you also come up with the solutions that you're providing within your firm. It can't be everything to everyone.
No, you certainly cannot, because the challenges are so different with each individual person.
Right. And so that's the key. That's, I think, helps you identify when I say like it's work and elbow grease. Yes, absolutely. But you don't want to be doing it blindly. You want to still be like working smarter, not harder. So you want to identify where your focus is, and then around that, figure out who the advisors are and who the community is and who the players are and who are the, like the articles that are being written, etc. So you do want to focus yourself that way. But once you've done that, you want to go after all the different pieces because you don't know which of those is going to catch someone's attention.
I love that.
And I think more importantly, just to kind of emphasize that point, it's not that, when I was at Ballantyne, all of a sudden somebody was like, wow, we're seeing Ballantyne everywhere now, right? It's because we really gave a focus of coming in to different conferences. We came in, put a focus into writing more, into meeting and having one-on-one lunches. But by doing that, we kind of bombarded the Boston community. So that's what I mean when I say it's a lot of work. But you need to take the different paths.
I love that. And I love what you said earlier, that there is no magic bullet. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. It is a lot of work, but just also, I do just want to put that footnote in. You don't want to be going after everyone.
Yep.
You have to have some filters.
Absolutely.
To help figure out who you want to go after.
Well, Naz, I've loved having you on the podcast. I've loved this discussion. We've been talking about this for probably 4 or 5 years about making this happen.
I know, this is so exciting. Congratulations for launching your podcast. And it's always just such a pleasure to talk to you, Rosemary. So this is what I mean, Rosemary, about kind of unlocking who a person is. Like people meet you and you're so warm and friendly, and that's what I mean. Like, be authentic, be yourself. Don't be afraid. No one else is you. That's the secret. Like all these like cheesy little things your mom might say, or you see on people's like emotional lift me ups, whatever. It's true. No one else is you. So just be yourself and you will find the right people. And that's how you're going to be successful.
I love that. And thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that.
Oh, of course.